world surrounded by franchises, reboots, and shared universes. An elite team of podcasters will risk body and soul to investigate the depths of intellectual properties, one multiverse, subgenre, and trend at a time. Who are we? We're the IP Squad. Welcome back to the IP Squad and our ongoing investigation into films based on pulp and comic strip heroes. I'm John Campbell. My partners for this investigation. Oh man, I can't believe we finally got both of them in here because they got to call them on the floor because you two idiots wrecked half the city. It's the Jones boys.
We got the job done, Cap.
Wait, the mayor calling you again, buddy?
Yeah. I just got off the phone with the mayor.
Top of the show.
From the mayor.
Just to set the mood, the tone. Everything John's going to say today is wrong. All right, so moving on.
Wow.
Fired from Specs for a change.
You know what? I'm feeling.
Let me tell you something. On the streets, where I was born and raised, Specs, as you know.
Yeah.
There have been whispers about this character.
Yeah.
But, I've seen some crazy things. But I don't know.
If I believe in the shadow.
Made out of shadows. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I don't know so much.
I hear he has the ability to cloud men's minds. That's all I know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
talk.
but only the weak.
Crazy
And I ain't no weak brain.
I ain't a weak brain.
Yes.
I'm just saying there's time I don't recall. But that could have been because I was hanging out with the boys.
Just saying, we finally have come to, I think, for all three of us, one of our favorite characters.
Oh, yeah.
In fiction.
Absolutely, 100%.
Unquestionably. I mean, really, to me, maybe the ultimate pulp hero in so many ways.
I would say similar to the Superman-Batman dynamic, which weirdly is pretty much mirrored.
Yeah.
Doc Savage first.
Yeah.
And quite possibly most important. However, the one that always has caught the public's fascination, mainly because catchphrases, awesome actors playing them on radio and so forth. Yeah. The Shadow is the Batman, where everyone's like going, oh, they still today people know the Shadow, whereas Doc Savage is the people or the purists, and they go, oh yeah, the Man of Bronze. Yeah.
My original hot take for this whole episode.
Okay.
This may be the episode that breaks up the squad. Yeah.
We're talking about the movie The Shadow.
1994, sir.
94.
Yeah.
1994. What a year. What a time to be alive, I gotta say.
It really was.
This is... Man, well, because I talk about, there's this weird little pseudo, it's not even, they're not connected at all, but like we're in the post Burton Batman, and I feel like Dick Tracy, The Shadow, and next week's movie are sort of the direct lineage we see, and a little bit go over our Patreon page, a little bit The Rocketeer as well.
I would throw into that to a degree. Val Kilmer's The Saint.
Oh, definitely. Yep.
To a certain degree, yes.
Literally casting the Batman of the time as Simon Templar.
It was another...
smart, older showbiz types like Warren Beatty, like Robert Evans. They saw the writing on the wall to a degree and were like, okay, I think I've got a couple of ideas.
It was also just studios, sitting there going like, oh, crap, old IP.
Where's our Batman?
Yeah, we can dig this up. It's surprising we didn't get, and that's me searching my memory, it's surprising we didn't get another Tarzan around that time, too.
Yeah, actually, that is surprising. It takes, it's interesting.
There were some attempts on TV, but that doesn't count.
And Lone Ranger to a
Right.
degree,
I-
because they all kind of would fit this.
Well, that very much.
And the whole
There's
season you're going to
Gold
do
and
on Zorro.
there,
Well,
Batman
Zorro will
Hills,
be Zorro will be
Gold
its,
Rush.
Zorro will be its own season, and we may have the Jones Boys back to talk about the Zorro movies when we get to that season.
Zorro the character, and pretty much
I would say
most
he's
of the
he's been pretty
good.
well served by adaptations
He was
as a
well
character.
served.
For the most
now
part.
let's talk about the Shadow.
Let's talk about the Shadow because Brendan, I'll give you but I was just gonna say the thing about. Of course, we'll turn it over to you for the history of the character. But yes, just a bit of the production history, of course, this was literally Universal going, Batman made how much money? What do we have?
Right.
What do we have a masked guy who fights crime in any capacity, anywhere?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it's very much the reason Star Trek the Motion Picture existed. Paramount just going, Star Wars made what? Don't we have a star thing? Is there a thing in space that we do?
Right.
do?
Yeah, I mean, it is that's very much. So anyway, give us the history though.
And John again. Universal says this, ignoring that they did Darkman literally.
Well, yeah, that they wouldn't.
I know.
It's a very
5 to 6
interesting
years before
situation, of course, and of course, once again, go over to our Patreon page and hear us talk about Darkman. But yes, that they didn't make a Shadow movie when that guy who made that movie really wanted to make a Shadow movie.
Really
missed
that.
Yeah, and it's just so interesting that they then
a Raimi Shadow. And what do you?
And then I mean, and as you guys know, even years he was still stuck on that idea because in the mid 2000s he was trying to get a Shadow movie off the ground. That has been like a major passion project of that guy's for.
You think it might someday happen again because time has passed
maybe
enough to where people are not going to like think, oh, how dare they? There's no at this point. A reboot's fine.
We've talked about this. I don't know what the modern history of these characters is going to be because it just doesn't seem like anyone is dying for the pulps to return. Sadly, as much as we love these characters, but that we have seen also time and time again. They don't really make money, and we'll talk about that. But anyway, Brendan, let's
the huge hits that
let's take us back.
Need to be.
Yeah, they've just never captured the.
Excited.
But Brendan, let's turn the clock back and talk about the origins.
Let's go back to 1930. You guys ready?
I am.
I don't know. If you say Street and Smith just once to me, you know.
So Street and Smith, the publisher. One of the big pulp publishers, Street and Smith, had a radio show, Street and Smith Detective Stories, and in 1930,
it's like Cleaning Lady with Steve Martin and Dead Man Don't Wear Plaid. Yeah. Street and Smith.
And if he says Condé Nast,
so the wrong podcast for him.
They just had an eerie voice narrator set these detective stories up. Then, because the narrator was actually so mysterious, and people were writing in going like, "What's the deal with the voice?" And they finally gave the voice a name, the Shadow. That's not a character; it's just the narrator, and is now called the Shadow. Then they basically get this idea because there's so much buzz about the narrator. Hey, why don't we turn it into a character and publish it in the pulps? So they turned to this guy, Walter Gibson. Walter Gibson is basically given nothing. They're like, well, his name is the Shadow. And Gibson's like, got it. So everything that we...
Wait a second, I'm rehearsing my sleight of hand. But when I'm finished...
Exactly. Because
I will write this.
Walter Gibson, lifelong magic enthusiast and biographer of Houdini.
Yep.
So obviously a lot of the mystical traits and things that the Shadow has is just born out of his love of stage magic. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff tied in. But so he created the character and then wrote a million.
Oh, the man's output is insane.
His output's insane, and I don't know if he still has the record, but at some point, the most amount of written material over a certain time period.
Would you say more than Lester Dent?
Yes, because Lester Dent, actually, there were ghostwriters dropping in. And I'm not saying that Walter B. Gibson wrote all the Shadows, but it's weighted very heavily towards Gibson. Because another thing, the Shadow pulp lasted longer than Doc Savage's pulp.
There you go.
But still, the Shadow caught on, and then the show was no longer the Street and Smith detective stories, it was the Shadow. So then it's not him just narrating; he is the central character, and he's where Batman comes from. He's where basically any. I mean, you could say that there's some Zorro in there too, because you have the alter ego who's a rich playboy.
Oh, yeah.
You have a dark, Zorro's not dark, but he wears dark clothing. But anyway, you have a mysterious, crime fighter. But yes, Batman is just literally
wait. Brennan, are you saying that by day, he's kind of a feckless, he kind of a
You'd
just
never
bon vivant,
would never,
kind of just a man about town. But at night,
he's a force for
he's a completely different.
I could never believe that one Lamont Cranston would ever be. Oh, I know you're gonna
mean Kent Allard.
Well,
this is a thing that I love too, of course, because I know the Shadow I'm more familiar with the history of than some of the other characters, but like a lot of these pulp characters we talked about, it just keeps getting glommed and then simplified and going like, well, maybe we get rid of the Allard thing and he's just Lamont Cranston.
Here's the thing that I would not. I mean, about this movie. We'll get into it, but that's not a nitpick that I. Because that's not
doesn't
get into that either.
I was going to say that's not a unique thing to this movie is what I'm talking.
Right. So I don't sit there going like, how dare they not mention Ken Allard? I'm fine. Yeah. And plus I understand that audiences today are never going to like go, wait, so World War I aviator then takes the identity of a lookalike millionaire who allows this because he's traveling the world all the time and says, sure, Shadow, if you want to pretend to be.
We only have like an hour and 45 minutes.
One movie is just nuts.
That would be crazy.
But still, all these tropes.
That's your limited series right there.
All these tropes, and here's me giving credit to this movie. Again, as Robin was saying, kind of off mic, is that it has so much of what I want, and has so much that they did the research for. It's not just the rings and his agents and all this stuff. There's stuff like the illusory hotel,
that's one of my favorite parts.
The death traps,
and the hypnotizing through a billboard. Shiwan Khan does that in his first appearance. And so it's all these little things where I'm like, they paid attention. I'll just say this. Basically, the history is the Shadow became huge, an icon, inspired a lot of different kinds of heroes, superheroes, and so forth.
Well, that's the thing.
And had its own, had serials, had radio shows.
Weren't great. The radio shows, including a run with Orson Welles, famously as
the original voice of the show,
as Margot Lane, who, by the way, created for the radio show, and Walter Gibson was always like, I don't want no girl in it. But eventually he had to put Margot in the novels because
all of that is in, and I said I watched the making of that's on here, and something David Koepp, who's the screenwriter of this movie, was trying to do was trying to borrow a little bit from the radio and a little bit from the pulps and trying to make all Shadow things fit together.
Well, here's the not hot take. It's just my take. But my take on this is that everything's there, like you said, Robin. But every attempt that the script makes, and I'll put it on Koepp because again, he's using all the stuff. But every attempt the script makes to make it cute, funny, or sexy, is wrong. Every one of them. None of that stuff lands, and it's wrong for this movie. The cartoony world they're putting in, kind of Dick Tracy, where it's like, it's all on sound stages and it's backdrops and so forth. I don't think it works here. I think the Shadow weirdly needed to be slightly more grounded than Dick Tracy, because Dick Tracy's coming out of
it is slightly more grounded than Dick Tracy.
The schism is going to happen right here.
It is slightly more grounded than Dick Tracy. It's not Dick Tracy.
My hot take, as I said off mic, was it's all there. It needed at least 2 more passes on the script stage before they took it to film.
Yeah, and take out all the camp. Take out all the dumb jokes.
There's no camp. There's jokes. The jokes are good.
My belief is that you could have had something closer to Dick Tracy and something even closer to Superman in a way, in order to make this work. It and I'll go you one even more of a difference between you and me. I think the comedy, I think the sexy parts could have landed a lot better. But what you end up having with this movie is such an inconsistency of tone,
Yeah, it's
that it literally, it's like somebody standing in front of a TV and just clicking, back in the days of younger viewers, we had televisions
no
where you had
viewers.
to change the
No
channel, and no, they see us through the
No,
thing.
they don't. They don't.
Anyway, no, through the electricity.
No.
But the point is, yeah, no,
Through the electricity. That's how this works, right?
They see
Something
how
with
to see it,
electricity.
yeah.
That's as
They
much
see
as
a lot
Robin
of
knows.
stuff,
Something
a
to do
lot
with
of gadgets
electricity.
and things.
Plug
Yeah,
in a
anyway,
pod.
Time for your fruit cup.
but it's somebody just changing the channels to
Yeah.
where you get, okay, this has gone on too long. Change the channel to a screwball comedy. Okay, now change it to
Well,
a
I would never say that
serious,
the Shadow.
specific, sexy.
I would never
Okay,
say
now
that a
change it
Shadow.
to.
Yeah, shut up, Robin. I would never say that the Shadow,
Excuse me.
as a film or a TV show or whatever, I would never say it needs to be humorless. It's not true, but it needs to be the appropriate characters at the appropriate times. I actually think that, strangely, for the casting here, which they're all great people, but as far
Man,
as
you got
what,
a murderer's row in this.
but as
cast.
far
It
as
is a
what
murderer's
memo
row.
they all got, and as far as what page they're all on, it's not the same. And there's a lot of comedy talent in it, and I sit there going like, ooh, maybe not the best choice, even though I love them. Weirdly, I was about to say, some of the stuff I think works well
Yeah.
is Jonathan Winters, even though
As,
making him the uncle of Lamont Cranston, I'm like,
not the best
Jesus,
idea.
whatever.
No.
But those scenes play well simply because Lamont is not quipping really, but he's doing his Playboy act, and that works.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
when
you
they put that
have-
martini down in front of him, he's like, "Oh, here we go."
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
I mean, those
Two
scenes
martinis.
work
Always
because,
2 martinis.
Yep.
because Jonathan Winters is not going for the laughs. The laughs are
He's
based
not.
into the character and the situation. You have Peter Boyle, who I love, but he's playing a comedy character.
Peter
He's
Boyle
playing-
is so good in this. Are you out of your mind? Peter Boyle is wonderful in this movie. What are you talking about?
Again, two
I
or three
think
more
so-
drafts.
this isn't on him, but you have him with
No.
the stupid mind reading book, like, or the psychic powers book, going, I think someone's about to arrive, as a body plummets behind him, and I'm like, stop it! Wah wah wah. wah
I
wah,
like
trombone.
all of it. It's very funny to me.
Wow, it's just not the Shadow. So in other words, it's and the Shadow saying like, next time you can be on top, and
Yeah,
I
that
don't
was-
just cringe. All of my future generations are cringing too.
Yeah.
I
was
assume I have children out there that I don't know about. But
Yeah,
same
That's
for-
probably not a good thing to assume. I'm just very not careful at
Well,
all,
well,
and
everybody knows behind those specs.
Yeah.
There's a Playboy. There's a
Oh,
Playboy.
there's
there.
you do go to the club and get your 2 martinis and
Exactly,
Yeah.
and I'm
That's
often
what that
told
guy is.
by
Yeah.
my police commissioner uncle that
Yeah.
I need to get serious.
Let me
and,
let me
maybe
talk a little
do
bit
something
about
with
the.
your
You gave us the history of that, and of course, I'll give you the history. There's not a ton of history about the making of this movie, but it's
They said, let's make it, and then they did.
well, it's basically like this director wanted to do it because we talked about Raimi, who ends up getting.
Yeah.
Raimi really wanted to do The Shadow, and I like that. According to the Wikipedia, Universal's like, well, maybe you should do something like The Shadow, Sam. I don't know what that's about. They had the rights, but they went.
Huge mistake.
And
oh
Huge
yeah, unbelievable
mistake.
mistake.
yeah. Oh, I mean, Darkman is. I mean, once again though,
Darkman's great.
we got a great movie
Darkman
out of
is so
Darkman.
good, I don't even
Is
wanna
an
talk
amazing
about it
movie.
right
Of course, once again, head over to the Patreon and listen to us talk about it. I'm going to stop plugging.
This is
But the guy who was involved before this that really wanted to do it was Robert Zemeckis. Zemeckis in the '80s, coming off of Back to the Future and stuff like that. Really, and you can kind of see, of course, some of that pulpy influence ends up in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, right?
Well, I mean, he's definitely in that time period, and he's aping the tropes.
There's
of noir lighting. And
that's what
that.
I mean. I think there was that flavor Zemeckis was interested in, and you can totally see a Zemeckis Shadow movie, right? I mean, the special effects of it he would get into and stuff like that, and also I think once again tonally the guy knows how to do light adventure that would have appealed to a mass audience.
But it shouldn't be light adventure.
Well, but
it's the Shadow.
All right, listen. You know what, Brendan?
This is the thing, though, is like the Shadow of the Pulps. I don't know a studio would really back something that, especially at this time. They weren't going to back something that bloody.
The Shadow of the radio show, that's the Shadow. You combine those, and that's a Shadow. So the Shadow went up against, weird nonsense and mad scientists and stuff like that. The tone was never light. I mean, just never.
Well, if you want to know the tone,
there was some clipping.
He has Tim Curry jump through a window to kill himself. There
are moments here where
there's a lot of darkness, a lot of darkness in this movie, and a lot of death and violence about in this film.
Yeah.
I will credit. Here's my recommendation for all the folks at home who are interested in the Shadow.
Yeah.
You can watch the movie. There's good stuff in it. And if you don't give a flying about the character, that's fine. The thing that gets closest to this, the balancing act, is read the novelization.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Of this movie. The guy's name is Lucerne, I think.
James Luceno. Or Luceno.
Sorry.
Yeah, Luceno, yeah.
I've got it. But the thing is that he really took the time to adapt the movie. It's all there, but he also brought in a bunch of the stuff from the pulps, and it balances it. It does make it like, the best of both worlds.
It's similar to, weirdly, the Max Allan Collins thing with the Dick what these novelization guys were taking these very seriously in a way that I think a lot of people who write those are just like, whatever. These guys were really trying to craft.
You have the breathing room to do it, and I understand that. I think he knew going in reading that script, this is not going to feel familiar to people who read Shadow novels. So I'm going to combine, and he does. I think he leaves in even the dumb quips, but he sells them better, and he gives a lot of that backstory. Kep did a good job. Like we said, he got rid of the really complicated nonsense, but he boiled it down. I think the origin sequence is great. I mean, I actually think that's
all the Ying Ko stuff.
Post-war Lamont Cranston has become this decadent crime boss in China, and he's a broken dude, but he's crazy evil, and then the enlightened people teach him another way to use his evil to fight evil, and it's like,
that was the Kep's big way in. He said, if you in the interview he talks about, he goes, the thing I fixated on is who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men. The only person who would know that is somebody who has that evil inside of them and has touched that part of them.
Is a shadow, the shadow, and that works really well. And what I keep thinking in my head is, if you get that so well, Mr. Kep, why did you do this other nonsense?
That other nonsense is
studio notes.
It's all part of the I guess that maybe that is the thing to me. This movie just once again almost no notes for me, only because it's the tone. It's existed for me. I guess maybe seeing as a kid, all this soup
was your introduction to the Shadow. Wasn't
it's true,
it?
Right. And I think for a lot of I know a lot of people who have love for this movie, and so it's interesting. In my research for this episode, I stumbled across a podcast called The Shadowcast. There's a guy who does a podcast entirely about the Shadow, and I
have listened. I know that exact podcast,
and he's got to be about. I listened to his episode about this movie, or at least a chunk of it, and he's got to be. He must be the same age as me, because he talks about seeing this as a little kid, and this being his entryway into the Shadow as well. Like that, this movie. I mean, in a lot of ways, this movie did what it was designed to do, right? Which is it did bring my generation to the character.
I mean, basically,
the character was pretty dormant at the time.
If you latch onto a fictional character, then your entry point is going to kind of solidify that as the character. So if you see a misrepresentation, but you enjoyed it, you wouldn't know it's a misrepresentation. So to you, that is the Shadow.
But
to a lot of people, Henry Cavill's Superman is Superman because it's the first one they've seen, and you sit there going like, and I don't want to say Henry Cavill's because that's putting the blame on him. Snyder's Superman, and so in other words, they won't know that's a misrepresentation because that was what.
But that's the thing is I have since read many a Shadow thing, and I don't feel this is as inconsistent with it as you're making it out to be. This time, I mean, it's a little less
nowhere
dark.
In the 300+ Shadow novels.
No, not that.
Is not in the radio.
It isn't, but that's the thing. I do get it from some of the radio show, and I definitely get it from a lot of the comic books, and more of the comic books are the Shadow absorbed than the pulps.
If you're reading Howard Chaykin or some of the guys that revived
the Shadow Strikes was the big, because that was contemporary with this movie. The Shadow Strikes, the DC.
Was it Mike Barr?
It might have been Mike Barr. I feel like there were a few different. And then you also had.
I just remember the art went from amazing to terrible.
Well, he ended up with Kyle Baker, who I do love, but Kyle Baker's stuff is very cartoony.
Baker, both I loved. And then whoever Eduardo Barreto, I think it was just.
But he was over on the Shadow Strikes, which was trying to do the straight ahead, not crazy farcical.
But it was yeah. My feeling is that again, like I said, 2 or 3 more drafts on the script would have made it, I think, more consistent. Sure. Second thing would have been. You at the end of the day, you would have had more of a Raiders of the Lost Ark feel.
I do think that is what he's going
for.
Cap is definitely going for that.
They are going for that, and I think my feeling, which is different from my esteemed colleague, is that would have been fine and could have been great.
I'd have been more consistent. I would agree with you. There's a lot in this, like I said, that I do like.
With the darkness, with the violence, with the adventure, with
when you listen to
the jokes.
Yeah. When you listen
to it would have all been more
Lamont and Margot on the radio show, there is plenty of Thin Man-esque back and forth banter, which I like, but it's not done. It's not cute. It's just smart people back and forth kind of quipping, and like, we're doing this, but any second now that poison gas will kill us, that kind of thing. And that is what I'm for. This one makes everything kind of adorable and way to that's the tone, is that even Dr. Roy Tam and
here's one thing you could have lost right away. Or actually 2 things. One, an origin sequence for how Lamont and Margot met. You could have lost that.
Yeah.
2, you could have lost all of the psychic nonsense with Margot.
Yes, indeed.
And then 3, I think it would have been more streamlined to this couple that's a partnership in a lot of ways. But there's some things that this guy can do that she just can't. But maybe there are other things she can do, like she humanizes him.
That would need to, of course, be the rewrite.
Matt Wagner, and you back me up on this, John.
Oh,
Matt Wagner. I've read the Wagner. I've read the Wagner. Yeah,
that you go to for because he gets it. Every one of his year ones he's done. Zorro and
they're really good. Yeah,
he nails it.
Yeah,
he does exactly that. Is that the Margot Lane that meets Lamont Cranston? He is darkness. I mean, even as Lamont, she's like, wow, it is this facade. And over the course of it, that's why she becomes his special agent and closest confidant is because she pulls him back. That is a dramatic way of doing it instead of a cute, funny way of doing it.
Right.
And I'm all about it. I mean, obviously, Shadow Year One didn't exist when this movie did, but it would have been great. Just like, here's your outline. Boom, follow it.
2 or 3 more drafts, and I believe they could have gotten there.
Maybe so. I want a Margot that is competent and is a partner, along with. And I did, of course, miss Harry Vincent. He's like the first and original. But whatever, we do get Mo and we get Roy Tam. And
they talk about they took the Harry Vincent plot and gave it to Roy Tam.
They did, yes.
But who Roy Tam, of course,
Harry Vincent was gonna commits suicide. And
Well, but I mean,
by
the
mobsters. But
structurally is what I mean. Yeah, I mean,
and,
you know,
the opening of this movie, as both Robin and I have
It
independently
is
said,
so good.
it's like
amazing.
for the origin sequence into the first appearance of the Shadow.
Here's
saving
one.
Oh my God.
The only thing I will say though, and you know, I love this movie. One small note I have.
So great.
The time jump rolling, and then the shadow. That stuff. That's just that's
like
Well,
no. That's
John,
clunky
but-
structure. I get that it's like I don't know how you, but like there was a better way to do
It's
that.
pulpy. It's pulp. I mean, it's a conceit of cereals. It's a conceit of.
It
radio
is
thing I
that
like
that
about
always has
that
always felt a
is that
little
it's-
clunky to me. And
yeah.
there's one other
It-
note
it-
I have too.
Well, I mean, it's actually much more streamlined and clear than the opening scroll of any Star Wars film.
Oh, no, yeah,
You
no,
accept it
yeah.
There. But I actually like the gag where it's like, so he went forth into the pit of mankind's worst sins and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
New York City. Come on.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Yeah, it's fun.
I like. I no. I
Yeah,
my other big note, and I feel like
it's
my other
I mean, we're piling on John again. Sorry.
No, John, as I always say about any time we disagree about stuff, this is all just opinion. And,
yeah.
John's opinion's absolutely valid.
and I
John.
I also, I mean, there are movies I'm way more on the, out on a limb on. This one has a whole cult. I said, listening to that, I was so heartened by listening to that Shadowcast guys going like, this movie is everything to me. And I'm just like, oh, thank God. There are other shadow. It's like it's nice to know that I'm not, because I do hang out with Brendan, and we do talk about this movie. This episode of this podcast is basically
Wait,
an
you hang out with
encapsulation.
my brother and he talks about the shadow?
Yeah, but
That's
like
so crazy.
as Brendan was saying, for the years
how
I've
did that
known him,
happen?
this movie
What
will
happened
just
to you?
come up every
Shut
once
up,
in a
Robin.
while.
Let him talk.
This movie will just come up every once in a while, and it's always like, and it's all, but the other thing is we're also not like. It's the same thing. This is always our big arguments. It's like the Coppola Dracula thing too. It's like you're in neither camp are you like utter shit, a complete disaster. So it's always so interesting that like our big disagreements are like
The ones
me
that
loving a
make me
thing and you
angriest-
kind of liking a thing but having
The
problems.
ones
or-
that make me the most frustrated aren't the ones that are disasters. Doc Savage makes me sad,
Yeah.
but it was never going to. It
Yeah.
doesn't have any of this. It's
Right.
the ones that get so close to
They're so
the
close to this
platonic
movie,
idea.
yeah.
It's like,
Right.
because Bram Stoker's Dracula, for me, gets so close that it irritates, that it misses.
Yeah,
And this one gets close, and it irritates me that it misses.
Yeah,
Um,
I will. I tell you, just
Also,
in watching,
Alec Baldwin has the wrong face for for the Shadow.
Okay. Here's my other big
and
note.
you know how they overcame that, Brendan.
No.
You watched the movie.
That's I will say
No.
as much
they
as
can't
I,
change his eye shape. His eyes are.
oh,
the
for
absolute
fuck's
wrong
sake!
eye.
All right, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Jesus
come on.
Christ, you're out of your goddamn. All right.
Brendan.
Brendan, just I can't
You
even
need
with the.
arched eyebrows, and you need.
No, you don't. You don't.
Sort of the.
You just
the
don't.
Big,
And actually-
slanted eyes. His go slant down this way, which is a weak eye for the Shadow.
Baldwin was the perfect choice for the Shadow. There
was a
couldn't.
great
Who
choice.
who else would you have cast?
Acting-wise,
Let me
he's
say in
absolutely amazing.
1994. Who else? Who should have played the Shadow?
I don't know.
There wasn't. There was. I mean, that's the thing. It had.
Look around.
Oh, for God's
I-
sakes.
No,
No, Baldwin is. I will accept. He is so good in this movie and a perfect
He's
Shadow.
good. Good. I mean, the
Also,
acting, I got no problem
and
with.
vocally too. I mean, one of the
And
great
vocally,
voices.
with the theater trained voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean-
no, that
And
stuff,
that deep,
it kills.
dark,
It's great.
and of course,
Good Lord,
then he
part of what you love about that sequence on the bridge is that
and the sound
you
design of
realize
throwing it to the different
Alec
speakers.
Baldwin could have played this on the radio.
Oh God, he would have been
That's
amazing.
how good he is. His voice
Robin,
is like when he goes.
I'm not
"Did you
talking
think
about.
I
I'm
would
talking
know?"
purely aesthetics.
But
I'm
this
talking
is
purely aesthetics.
well, and on a purely
Ah,
aesthetics, I will say
because that guy
my
acts the hell
other
out of it.
my other big thing. They didn't need to put the fucking prosthetics on him. I that is one of the. It
Well,
looks
it
so
doesn't
goofy as hell, and it.
doesn't
But that
work.
is an attempt to please the Brendan Joneses of the crowd, and I just don't feel it was necessary. And over time, especially in now watching the really nice high def Blu-ray, it looks goofy.
Yeah, because they did a bad job, and I think that was a mistake. It makes his face anytime he's the shadow, just an immovable mask.
Yeah.
Yes.
His
It
mouth
makes-
is always going to be covered as the shadow. That's fine. If they had just put sort of, a hawkish bump on the nose, that's fine because it's not like he has a tiny little nose. But at the same time, also they gave him these. They used his own, which again, his eyebrows go down just like his eyes do instead of arching. So they went over his normal eyebrow shape and just built them up to have these sort of bushy eyebrows, and then it looks goofy as hell. Admitted it looks goofy as hell. It looks great when it's sort of at the distance and they do all those comic book poses, and I'm sitting there going like, "That's what I want. That looks amazing." Him going up the staircase and that with the cloak.
We'll talk about there's so many amazing visuals, but the thing I've heard many people say, and it's true, they made Alec Baldwin as the Shadow. He looks like Billy Baldwin. When you put those prosthetics on him, he looks like his brother Billy.
Yeah.
It is really weird.
But having said that, the metaphor of this is
that was a smart way to get into it. Yes,
I think that works, and
that was a good writer idea.
A good underlining for this bizarre transformation.
Your face changes shape from the evil within you, and it's like, okay,
yeah.
Right.
And then he has the dream where he tears off his face, and she wants.
Oh, that I love. That I fucking love.
Enforcing that shit.
Oh, the dream sequences are great, and I mean, again, if they didn't go for weird attempts at levity when he comes in the next morning,
funniest line in the movie.
I had a dream where I was having orgasms on a beach, and he's like, I had a dream where I was tearing my own flesh off.
That is the funniest joke in this movie. You don't like that? I mean, I'm serious. I think that is where he just goes. She has that whole thing, and because the key is Baldwin just says, "I dreamt I tore off my own face. There was another man underneath,"
and he does it awesome. It's just not what a Margot and a Lamont would be saying to each other.
If it was the radio show, it'd be, well, Margot, some dreams are not dreams at all. They're nightmares.
Yeah, and also she wouldn't be talking about the sun on my skin.
Well, they wouldn't have been allowed. I mean, they wouldn't have been allowed to.
My nipples were so hard.
Oh, she doesn't say that in this.
She doesn't say that.
I don't know. Brendan's imagining stuff.
This copy, do you?
I do have the Shout Factory Collector's Edition. You apparently have clicked on an alternate cut
on the hardening of her nipples, and
no,
you missed it.
Come on.
No,
now.
I paid close attention.
Let's talk about because I do think a lot of the visuals of this. I mean, I love the whole look of the movie, but I'm always just trying to. I have to go like, guys. There's a lot of great visuals, and I think Russell Mulcahy does a great job on this movie. I think he really beautifully realizes
he did the best job he could with the script, and I agree with also. I mean, we keep saying how great this cast is.
Oh, incredible!
No, everybody.
Here's how great it is.
Except for Penelope Ann Miller.
Patrick
She's wonderful.
Fischler, who has maybe 3 lines
as the sailor jumps off the
Juan Khan makes jump off the Empire State Building.
Great.
That's how great this cast is.
Yep.
Is that they cast a young Patrick Fischler as this annoying guy, a part he plays very well because he plays it quite a bit.
Yeah. Little did we know this would be every part he would play going forward and everything.
Max Wright has like 4 lines. Joseph Marr has
Ethan
maybe
Phillips.
5 lines.
Ethan Phillips is the
Abraham Ben Ruby.
The guy who plays Neelix on Star Trek
that's
Voyager.
what I'm talking about. Ethan Phillips.
Has a great bit.
He shoots himself.
Guard.
Yeah.
Now, one problem I have with it is this. Another problem. These are all great people.
Amazing.
They're all TV comedy people. Character actors who often play comedy. Not saying they can't be dramatic.
They're not.
So pretty much, and in the very opening scene, I don't know this character actor's name, but
James Hong? Are you talking about James Hong?
No. The guy playing
James
the
Hong,
gangster.
who's brought in as the warring rival gang leader in the Chinese province.
Oh, you're talking about John Capellos,
Oh no,
right?
sorry. In the opening on the bridge. Sorry, no, not James Hong. I love James Hong. I was like, what are you talking about?
You're talking about John Capellos.
John Capellos. There you go.
Who's
I
in
love John
Rock
Capellos,
Band.
but again, every time you're seeing
Like one of his firefighting.
anyone who comes in and says 2 or 3 lines, you sit there going like, "Oh, I used to see you on, Barney Miller, or
or
it's almost
Seinfeld or something. Yeah.
All of these people were on Seinfeld.
So that's a bit of a pullback, simply because, again,
Isn't
it's
that
like
on you
casting
more than the movie,
everybody
though?
off
I mean,
of primetime television.
well, yeah, but they're all really solid, probably New York character actors. I don't.
Yes, Brendan, I don't have that problem. Because I think that, again, script wise, if it had been developed more,
The script
you
is
would
the
have
main
had.
problem. The script is the main problem.
You would have had.
It's so interesting, though, that the script.
Tracy use a better use of these great talent.
Everyone
And
is
Russell
so-
Mulcahy
Yeah.
is desperately trying to make all of it work. He really
And Mulcahy.
these beautiful, like you could almost take them as framed stills.
Mulcahy.
Beautiful imagery, and it all moves.
And
you never are checking your watch per se.
no.
Oh, no. But
moves like a
Mulcahy
train.
was such a good choice, too, because he, coming out, his big movie before this was Highlander. Yeah, but Highlander also shadowy and stylized. And, it makes a lot of sense.
And then what's the next big movie he does after this is Dark City. And,
Yeah? No, wait, he
the
didn't
next
do.
movie of note.
He didn't do. He didn't.
That is
He didn't do Dark City.
Underrated classic.
He didn't do Dark City. That was Alex Proyas.
Oh no, that's that
Oh
other guy.
God,
Alex Proyas.
forgive me.
I was gonna say,
Proyas, sorry.
his next
I
movie
quit,
is
John. I
Yeah.
turn in my resignation.
yeah.
I did not. I
Yeah.
don't deserve the
Yeah.
squad does not.
That's it. I need your badge
I'm
and
not
gun on
living
the
up to the
table.
level.
Yeah,
I
come
I
on.
need your badge and gun. The
Yeah.
idea of Robin with either of those scares me.
Yeah. His next film, of course, is the Dolph Lundgren classic Silent Trigger, actually.
Oh, you don't have to tell us that. We all knew that.
And then Brendan,
Fuck that guy.
his next movie after that, we talked about on Meet the Monsters, a little film called Tale of the Mummy.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, what a
fuck
fall
that guy.
from grace. That
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
garbage.
How far
That
the mighty
is-
have
Well,
fallen.
and then Brendan, even worse, if you recall, he did direct the Curse of King Tut's Tomb miniseries that we did.
That's
Which
right.
is one of the worst
Wow,
things
it
I've ever
is
seen in my life.
unbelievable.
No, I don't know what happened to this guy. Well, actually,
know what happened.
well, I've talked about. He actually has kind of the thing that brought him back, weirdly connected to Meet the Monsters. He's the main director on that Teen Wolf show that they did and made the movie, which may not be our thing, but hugely successful. So, he's still out there.
I don't wish the man any ill.
No, actually, I really like
Neither.
Russell Mulcahy.
Highlander was this amazing
And I hope the
hallucinogenic
reboot
thing.
is good.
I do as well. I mean, they've got the right people involved. So.
But yeah, Russell Mulcahy had that same kind of thing of he was an Australian
Yep.
genre director,
Came from music
and
videos,
he-
which
and
like a
music
lot of these
videos.
guys, yeah.
but similar to Richard Franklin, where they have this like 5 to 10 year run,
Yeah.
and then it's like they drop off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
It's kind of a shame.
Yeah, it's a bummer because also here's the other thing about this movie. This movie was like successful, not a big hit.
Not what they wanted it to be. But it
No,
was successful.
it did make money.
Yeah.
This is not yet. But yeah, but it's another thing too where I'm like,
John, you were the only one who bought the action figure.
do you want to talk about action figures, Brandon? Because I did have.
do.
Can you switch out the face and then
Okay.
the next face has the big nose?
Okay, wait, no, yes. I had the car. I did not
That
have.
swaps out Lamont for the Shadow.
I did not
Yeah.
have Siobhan Khan's car, which because it was the
Which
night.
was so famous.
I know it's the '90s, right? Where
You mean the Conmobile? You didn't get the
yeah,
Conmobile?
that's the I do love '90s movie tie-in toys where they're just like, well, there really aren't any vehicles in the movie or whatever. It's just like, well, they're gonna be, and they're gonna shoot missiles, and like it's gonna be a thing.
And there'll be
But
a laser grab.
I had the Shadow.
Shadow.
The Shadow one. The Shadow one I had was pretty cool because he would draw his pistols. You would
Yes.
push his legs
Oh, there
together,
it is,
and he would
45s
pull out the
of
45s.
blazing
And then
45s.
I also did have the Lamont Cranston that turned into the Shadow. You was Lamont Cranston in a tuxedo, and then you put the Shadow thing over him and the cloak on him. And then they did this thing where they put a translucent thing in the hat. so that if you put him up near a light bulb, his eyes turned red, and that was him using his shadow powers.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Wow.
No, dude, I was all over this movie as a kid.
I think I know what evil lies in the hearts of that merchandising.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, it was
deal.
well, because once again, like we talked about this a little bit on Dick Tracy, it's also the case here, right? Everyone's following the Batman model. I don't think they had a fast food tie-in, which is actually surprising.
They did.
Did they?
I think there were shadow cups and stuff at Burger King.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did, because that was very much the case once again for Batman. And actually, a weird one that I was just watching a video essay about that isn't a pulp thing, but similarly, I remember this, and it was I think maybe the same year as this, was the Flintstones. Do you remember the deluge of Flintstones movie shit that came out? I had so much of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
they changed McDonald's to Rock Donald's and stuff.
John Goodman goes to his AA 12-step meeting.
Yeah.
Inevitably, he shares about the Flintstones.
Dude,
it's
so
almost, you could set your watch to it. And
it's
a lot of people at that particular meeting, they know to get up about 15 minutes.
Here's the thing, you joke, but he is so embarrassed by that, and I find that so interesting.
He hates it.
Hates that
he did it.
Yeah.
He hated that he got talked into it.
But also that it was a massive success and probably the highest grossing movie he's ever been. Yeah, it's so fascinating. Anyway, stay tuned for that. We are going to be doing down the road an IP Squad season about live action movies based on cartoons. So the Flintstones movie will be discussed in detail down the road. Anyway, yes. So
people always forget that film version of High and Lois that was adapted by Edward Albee into a weird George and Martha.
But
kind of
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Always with these two, and I think they learned
Stephen King's Marmaduke.
They learned this with. We talked about Dick Tracy last week. They learned this there, and they learned this here. It's just like Dick Tracy in the Shadow. They aren't Batman. Like, these weren't... The idea that Universal was expecting this to, like, set the world on fire is so interesting, right?
I don't think they expect it. They just hope.
They hope, but I mean, like, the idea that this was treated like, this is our Batman. You're like, oh, but the Shadow is so much weirder.
Yeah, I think the producers on this Shadow...
Same thing with Dick Tracy,
was
right?
It like Lawrence Gordon and Joel Silver or somebody like that?
Yes, I think you are correct on that. It is.
I'll tell you the actual...
Martin Bregman and Will Baer are the producers on this.
Oh, Bregman. Wow.
Yeah. This was a Bregman passion project. He was like, he carried the rights from studio to studio.
Yeah.
Including initially when it started with Gibson.
The one that I really picked up on was the first AD was this guy, Louis D'Esposito, who ends up from this becoming one of the big executives with Marvel Studios.
Yes, of course.
Like, he's ended up like directing little shorts for them and stuff.
I know that name. Yeah, he's.
If you watch like some of the making ofs for Marvel movies, inevitably this little. He looks like a character in the Shadow movie. Yeah, well, we were thinking about Tony Stark. Well, one thing we thought
actually,
this guy's got a lot of
that from what I got, they talk about him. Brendan, you and I both read the MCU history book that was out last year, and they do talk about D'Esposito is sort of the mover and shaker a little bit more than Feige, who's a little bit more the visionary. D'Esposito is a little bit more the classic production guy going, we got to get money over here and do this and go there.
You put it this way, Feige's the Selznick and D'Esposito is the Eddie Mannix.
Yeah. But somebody else I want to talk about. Somebody else I want to talk about on this, because we were talking about the visuals.
Don't worry so much about that.
Somebody that gets a lot of praise in the documentary, and deservedly so, is cinematographer Stephen H. Brum, or Brum. I don't know how you pronounce his name exactly.
I don't either. But what was he?
He was De Palma's cinematographer. So this guy shot The Untouchables, and he had literally he's coming off of. One of the things and it's so weird that these things are connected, but because Kep's hit before this was, because Shadow comes out the same year as Jurassic Park, which of course was massive.
There you go.
But the big hit...
Did that do well?
It did all right.
Yeah,
it did all right. It was a good year to be David Koepp, let's just say. But the thing Koepp had done right before this, going into this, for Universal, was Carlito's Way. And weirdly,
Penelope Ann Miller.
they pull Penelope Ann Miller and the cinematographer from Carlito's Way into this movie. But like I said, I mean, and then subsequently, then this guy's next movie is Mission Impossible with De Palma. But I think this movie is exceptionally well shot, and a lot of great lighting stuff in it, talking about wanting to do the shadow power practically, the way he disappears into shadow and his eyes glow, and he's like, you believe this. I mean, that's all great stuff. We're talking about things, listening to him talk about, like, I wanted to shadow the top of Penelope Ann Miller's face, so you just focus on her face rather than then she comes into light. It's stuff like that. Real old school Hollywood.
Joseph von Sternberg sort of lighting.
He talked about a lot of, and both he and Mulcahy were really like, we want this to look like, I mean, I like Mulcahy, he goes, if it had been up to me, I would have shot it in black and white. I came in with this whole noir thing, and Universal was like, no way in hell are we doing that. You can't. You just can't. You can't shoot. That is such a bridge too far for studios. It's so weird. You guys have heard these too. Countless directors going like, "I want to do it in black and white." And there's no way in hell we're doing that. Are you kidding me? Are you out of your fucking mind?
My one and only time I got to talk to Tim Burton when he came in to buy stuff at the Virgin Megastore, and I went up to him and I said, "Don't want to bother you. Just want to thank you for all the stuff, but I really loved Ed Wood." And it was only like, I think that was his previous picture. He was working on Mars Attacks when I met him. Okay. And he goes, that means a lot. He goes, thanks a lot. He goes, I really had to fight to get that thing made the way I wanted to. He goes, they wouldn't let me do it in black and white. And I was like, what are they, idiots?
No, literally, it was a thing. It was a thing. It's so interesting you mentioned that, because that was exactly the example I was thinking of, and it was about the same time, of course.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers ditched the movie. That was the thing, was he, because obviously coming off of Batman and stuff like that, they're like, what do you want to do? It's like Ed Wood. They were on board to do it, but he's like black and white. They're like, no. And so he took it over to Disney, of course, which ends up at Buena Vista. And like literally it was a thing where you can do that, but we're taking $10 million out of the budget or whatever. Like and that is such a thing where they're like, that is death. I just heard Alexander Payne talking about doing Nebraska, where he's like, I want to do it in black and white. And they were like, no fucking way. That's death. And apparently he was just like, then I won't do it. And the studio was just like, well, I guess if you're that fucking serious about it, it's just so interesting. That is, I mean, this movie didn't have to, it would have been cool if it was in black and white.
It would have been.
But it doesn't have to be. And I do like the way they use the shadows and the color. I mean, I do think you do. Here's my defense for color, of course. The red of the shadow is very cool and evocative, of course. That is awesome.
Look, here's the thing. You know the terrible thing that was The Spirit.
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, yeah, yes. I don't hate it as much as you, but it is a misfire.
Nightmare.
Cinematic abortion.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
a little excessive. We'll get there, because that's a later episode of the season.
Somebody's telling Frank Miller he's a really good director.
But also...
But you're going to talk about the idea of doing black and white with splashes of color.
Yes, that would have been awesome, because the red of the Shadow's scarf would have been. That would be just in black.
You could maybe sell that now. Maybe once again, they're weird about it.
Who do I talk to?
I don't know if the technology was.
President of show business.
I don't know if the technology was there at that point, because also that's something Baldwin talks about in the documentary. This movie is right on the cusp of the CGI revolution, and so there's some CGI in this movie, but not nearly as much as there would have been, of course, even just a couple years later.
Because then you wouldn't have the awesomeness of the flying knife that's also kind of a
I love the knife, man. The knife.
Overdone, because they're like, look what we can do. But I do like it. It's a cool gimmick.
Yeah, and the fact that it's kind of a force, like Star Wars Force sort of thing, with Lamont Cranston.
You still can't control it because you're doing it with brute force.
Yeah.
And then he gets it to work for him. Of course.
That's just. I mean, Cap is. There's a reason you pay him. That guy knows screenwriting structure like nobody's business.
Here's another thing I like about the movie. I'm just gonna keep talking about things I like about it.
I'm happy to let you do that.
Brennan, do you like the Hall of Mirrors sequence?
I'm not a score guy.
Thank you.
But the theme.
Yeah.
The shadow theme.
Amazing.
Score I'm like, but the shadow theme is
amazing. It is so good that I'm like,
The
if
score is so good that when the horrible songs happen,
oh
it is so very bad.
yeah,
That it makes you yearn for John Lone poorly singing "Lullaby of Broadway" again.
Yeah. By the way, John Lone is good.
Oh fuck,
Yeah,
John.
I mean,
John Lone.
He's again not my take on Shiwan Khan, but the guy's bringing it.
When
so
he
great.
as soon as they open that tomb, which by the way, I love the way the tomb opens, of course, with the and all that stuff. It's great. But the second he comes out of there, he just rules. He just is Shiwan Khan. Right? He's just like, I'm here to take over. Oh, fucking whatever. He's great in this. He's very good in this. Mulcahy also talked about in the documentary, he did stay in character at all times. So, which I like. Yeah, method. Wow. So Mulcahy goes, it behooved him when it was lunchtime. Everyone got out of his way at the lunch line because here comes Shiwan Khan.
Oh, good. So he Jared Leto'd his way.
He was a little Jared Leto. Yeah, he just goes.
I had to be helped back to his a dead rat.
Yeah, I just like Mulcahy. Mulcahy's so funny in there because he's clearly going like, I'm not going to shit on him, but he's just like, oh yeah, no, he was like that all the time. It was interesting, like.
We love John.
Yeah, no, it was definitely that where it's like, what a character, am I right? That guy definitely didn't cause any problems.
Russell Mulcahy in interviews go, well, among the Asian actors I enjoyed working with, let me tell you something about James Hong.
Was this just your excuse to do an accent?
Yeah, okay. Let me tell you something about James Hong.
Yeah.
James Hong won't sit there and bore you with method shit. He just does his Jimmy Cagney impression, and everybody loves it.
For 2 seconds, he's great.
Well, that is the thing. The movie does it is like when Ian McKellen's in it too, and stuff like that. I mean, he's in it a bit, but no, don't you dare! No, he's not Sir Ian.
He's just underused.
He is under, really, but that's what I'm saying. Is like
Ian McKellen to do there.
Well, I do love the fact
that Reinhardt Lane
is an ensemble cast.
I love that Reinhardt Lane and Tim Curry are both supposed to be playing Americans.
Oh,
because I was gonna tell you that the script was as inconsistent in tone as Tim Curry's American accent.
Here's the thing. Once again, there is no movie that is not improved by the presence of Tim Curry. And
the thing is, you are not wrong. You are 100% right. And the thing is that even with the shifting accent,
and
the fact that he's playing a cartoon person.
Oh God, of course.
But you just can't not love the guy.
Yeah.
And then
the death trap that he does is great.
His breakdown scenes.
His breakdown scene.
Him with that Tommy gun.
He's foaming at the mouth, Brendan.
He does twice, kind of. He's great. I want to see him go crazy all the time.
Yeah.
It is.
And I think you probably can in a lot of movies. Frequently played
cameo in Oppenheimer where he just shows up and loses his mind. Unbelievable.
Him with that Tommy gun that's one of my favorite moments in this movie.
Him with the Tommy gun.
So great.
Foaming at the mouth.
Also the moment where he's like, bet you didn't think I'd do. Bet you didn't you?
Yeah, and the thing where he falls on the ground and is totally lost it right before his shadow tells him there's the exit.
Yeah.
And he's just on the ground and he does the...
Yeah.
I mean, it is a cartoon but at the same time...
Well, that's the thing. That's what's great about Tim Curry. Tim Curry is just like...
mercy killing for the shadow. A mercy killing.
I feel like every Tim Curry performance, he just goes to the director, it's like, give me a number 1 through 10. Where am I placing this? Because Curry can be very realistic and subtle, or the highest of the highs, man. That's the thing that's great about him.
Again, they could have fixed this if they just said, okay, well, with this character, he's from Britain. He's a British scientist.
I don't know why. I will say, agreed on that. He could have easily been British, and it really wouldn't have affected anything.
And
even honestly,
Germanic or something.
True. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing.
It's not very Germanic.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, he could have been British too. It doesn't. I mean, just because Margot's American doesn't mean her father didn't immigrate from England. I don't think it would have thrown me. Although, actually, I think McKellen is, of course, his accent is better than Tim Curry's.
I think his accent's much better than Tim Curry's, and it's him playing kind of a doddering guy.
Yeah.
at an
That's
age
also
when he's
part of it, is that
probably
when I say
in
it's
his
underused,
mid-50s.
I was gonna say it is very
but
funny
it's
that
also
he's
kind of
old in this.
Yeah.
It's a dialed down Ian McKellen, which I just think I don't want. Doesn't mean he can't do it.
Well, here's
By
the
the way,
weird.
Rodney, we're not disturbing your lunch, are we? But anyway, so the thing is, with him, because he's so powerful, I always want him to be cranked up. But seeing him
I like to throw you off your.
Well,
Brennan,
I can't understand anything you're saying.
I like to throw you off your roll. Because
I like the way you're storing bread in your cheeks for winter.
Here's the thing, though, about McKellen at this point. He's not, at least for American cinema, really like a big... he's known, but, he's not... He's a guy who, he's beloved in the theater, of course.
Rarely did movies at this point.
Yeah, he's like... I'm looking at, what he was in...
This is before he becomes, obviously, an American household name.
Right, because he's... I mean, really, that's like... that's really like X-Men, isn't it? That really makes him like...
Probably.
I mean, he done Gods and Monsters, which got him an Oscar nomination. He's amazing in.
Yeah.
His Richard III, I fucking love.
But John, that would be it right there. The Richard III
that
film is what put him, even though it's not like it was a huge blockbuster,
but definitely
that put him on the zeitgeist awareness.
Well, you do see
he could get cast and.
Yeah, you see a big jump after that to things like Gods and Monsters or Apt Pupil, right? Where it's suddenly like he's
how to get on the zeitgeist.
But
I told you, call the president of show business.
This same year, he's in James O. Brooks's "I'll Do Anything," and he's literally in like one scene as director, and you just go like,
I'll do anything.
Like the I kind of like "I'll Do Anything." I don't think it fully works.
Okay.
It's all right.
My favorite thing in I'll Do Anything is Albert Brooks yelling at Nick Nolte, and he can't remember his name, so he's like, "Hey, you actor, actor, come here!
Well, Brooke,
come here!"
Surprise! Albert Brooks is great in that movie.
Albert Brooks can do anything.
Yeah,
he can do anything.
But anyway, but I'm talking about that's the kind of stuff. There's a lot of movies from the '90s where you're going like, wait, Ian McKellen's in this? And he's just like in one... This is actually one of the better uses of him than a lot of stuff I've seen from this same era, where you're just going like, do you guys not know you have like one of the greatest living actors in this movie?
Apparently,
no.
They just needed him to
he's in The Keep. He's in Michael Mann's The Keep, like before this and stuff like that.
This is right around the time, or pretty close to it, that he did the movie version of 6 Degrees of Separation.
Yep, that's the year before this.
Right.
Yeah, that's
literally
93.
He has 2 scenes. He plays a South African friend of the lead.
Yeah.
And the whole time you're thinking, well, Donald Sutherland's good, but Ian McKellen could have played this part.
Oh, sure, yeah. But that's the thing I think that's interesting about this. You go like, it is an underuse of Ian McKellen, except for, at the time, Ian McKellen is not Sir Ian McKellen as we know him today. It's weird. It's weird to think about that he really didn't become like a movie star until much older. Right. It's a fascinating thing. That being said, though, that it aids this movie because what little he's in it, he's great.
Sure.
Yeah, like everybody is. I mean,
except for
I recognized Abraham Ben Ruby from Parker Lewis Can't Live.
You bring him up earlier.
Yeah.
He was also very nice on the lot because he was on ER.
ER. That's what I always know him from. Is
my tours.
He was in a lot of ER. Like the vast majority of it. But yes, I'm so glad you also mentioned Parker Lewis Can't Lose, one of my favorite TV shows, because it was wonderful.
Well, John, I don't like to brag about this.
Yeah. You're about to bring up.
Oh wait. I know because Brendan's told me you had a connection to the sister from that show, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And she had also done. I think it was a TV movie with Robert Wagner.
Robert Wagner.
So anytime I would call her up and leave messages as Robert Wagner. Alice. I'm. People talk about Natalie all the time.
Oh God.
I would just walk up to Maya and go, Maya, we're friends now, so tell me honestly. Parker Lewis could occasionally.
Hey, one of my favorite episodes is an episode called Parker Lewis Must Lose. It's very good. She was great on that show. She's also in one of my favorite episodes of The Wonder Years.
And she was an adorable child in Adventures in Babysitting.
Yes. Anyway,
however, she's not in the
She's
shadow.
not in the shadow, believe it or not. Oh, another piece of merchandise, just because I see this here, I have the merchandising thing, and it's here in Portland, Oregon, at the Great Barcade Ground Control, which when in Portland, Oregon, visit the wonderful barcade that is Ground Control. They have the Shadow pinball
machine?
Yeah, and it's awesome because you shoot the thing with the handle of the 45 and it fires the pinball. It's very cool. It's a very cool piece of merchandise.
He talks to you. He says the weed of crime bears bitter fruit.
Well, it is one of those that does. I think he might, because it does have, like, when you hit certain scores. It'll say things from the movie.
When you get like extra points, does the maniacal laughter occur? Because
I think so. Yeah, I actually do.
Brendan,
yeah,
will agree with me.
Yeah,
that Alec Baldwin's shadow laugh is one of the greatest things that's ever been in cinema.
It is great. It's better when you have a surround system, like when I saw it in the theater. I don't have a surround system.
It is so.
But the sound mixing, they purposefully.
I was saying that earlier.
Moving channel to channel.
The voices come out over here, over there,
especially during those fight
with the
scenes.
whispering and did you think I wouldn't know? Yeah.
I will say that is also something I love in Baldwin's performance. That when he's the Shadow, he's a full-on madman. The way I want. He is scary in a way that Batman isn't.
The way he does those lines of, did you think I wouldn't know?
Yeah. He gets it. He gets
amazing.
Yeah, and it is like, cool, because I think that's another thing, too, that once again, when I'm talking about, the Shadow's not Batman as much as, but in terms of the popularity of the character, it's like, the Shadow's fucking nuts. Dangerous in a way that Batman isn't,
in the books or anything else. Well, in the radio show, it is more, it seems like the act. In the books, it's more ambiguous. Is the Shadow really just his id unleashed, and therefore he is unstable?
Yeah.
And he's not as insane and murderous as the Spider. Nor
probably will he ever.
No, he never will, because he's too Shadow-esque unless you really lean into the freaky masks.
Well, I do feel like we've talked about it's hard enough to get the Shadow, the most well-known of these, to a movie. You're not getting to the Spider. You're not getting an Avenger movie. It's just
you're not going to get a Green Llama movie.
No. By the way, was there a Green Llama reference
right now?
Was there a Green Llama reference in this movie? Because according to IMDb trivia, there is.
Llama cigarettes.
And the light on it turns green at one point. The neon lighting on it turns green. It's in the IMDb trivia that was a thing.
If that was supposed to be,
I think somebody really wanted it to happen.
That's one of those things, though. The reason I say in the trivia, though, is I'm going maybe.
If I had written it, I would have had somebody or a newspaper headline where someone goes, big game hunter Benson loses family on trip. I would definitely throw that in there. I would throw an Avenger reference.
No
or
one
Doc
was.
Savage.
People just didn't think. We weren't thinking like that.
The guy in the Empire State Building's busy.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
But they weren't thinking like that back then, really. I mean, we've talked. Brendan, you and I have talked a lot about. They could have,
but Reed Smith, aka Condé Nast, they own the rights to all three of those characters.
I don't know how that works screen wise, but also you could throw that in without. I mean, if you say the guy in the Empire State Building, that's not referencing. But you and I, Brendan, you and I always talk about both that seeing Batman Forever in the theater. When Bruce just mentioned
Metropolis.
Circus must be halfway Metropolis by now, but that was
my crap.
I know you don't. You just didn't see that. They didn't do that.
I actually lost control of my bowels.
He evacuated his bowels in the theater.
You're the one.
Yeah.
You're a legend in movie theater at admin circles.
I can no longer
Yeah. I don't know, man. Would that be that good?
The guy.
Another nerd crapped his pants at Batman. It's a whole thing.
He said the drop.
I did look at the as always, I looked at the reviews, contemporary reviews of the time.
Is this some highs and lows, or?
I haven't. No. This is those are the crazy people on IMDb. We'll get to them. These are. I was looking at the reviews of major critics at the time, and
yes.
I was very delighted to see that the major critic who loved it the most was one Roger Ebert.
Of course
he did.
I think his review. I like it a little bit more than him, but he's right on pretty much what I thought of it too. Where he's just like. It just gets. He's kind of with you guys, but more loving. Where he just goes like, it just gets all the right things right. And I think the other thing that's very interesting about who was making movies at this time, and I think this is where, once again, some of the pulp stuff breaks down. It is Ebert talking lovingly about, I remember gathering around the radio. You know, it's like Beatty talking about growing up with Dick Tracy. Like, it's all guys in their 50s at this point who are seeing these things. I mean, reading Ebert talk about The Shadow is like us talking about Marvel movies, where he just goes, they did it, man. Yeah. There he is.
But that is hard for nerds, and I'm speaking for myself. But sometimes the thing that's hard is taking that much preconception and also just a body of knowledge in what could live up to it. I'm always really happily surprised that when we've said this before, when Marvel makes changes to continuity or characters to make their movies or TV shows, by and large, it works for me. Mm-hmm. So that's why they have my respect. It's very often the case where you have to put that aside and take a thing on its own merits. This movie's entertaining. This movie, for me, fails when I compare it to what it could have been and what I think it should have been. So that's the thing is, I accept that. That's on me because I have
it's interesting. I'm going to just read this one paragraph from Ebert's review because it's interesting that he kind of says the opposite of what you just said. He says, The Shadow is the kind of movie that plays better the more baggage you bring to it. If you respond to film noir, if you like dark streets and women with scarlet lips and big fast cars with running boards, the look of this movie will work some kind of magic. The story itself may not be so mesmerizing, but who really cares? Style and tone are everything with a movie like this, which wants to bring to life a dark secret place in the lurid pulp imagination.
It wants to.
It wants to. I think Ebert...
By the way, also, I just want to say...
It hit him in a good place.
Anytime I go back and read his reviews, I'm always just like, God, film criticism. I just don't see writing as good as this anymore.
No.
No, you don't.
Yeah, he was such a good writer.
I just recently got the latest edition of David Thompson's biographical dictionary of film.
He keeps adding.
And he does. What he did this time was he just took the previous edition and he just updated it as opposed to.
By the way, I loaned John Suspects.
Oh, yeah. I need to give that back to you.
John,
it's really
Suspects,
good.
Right?
So good.
Right?
So good.
Right?
I need to read the other one, too, the Western one.
Silver Light. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's just film nerd Nirvana kind of stuff.
Oh,
right?
it is.
It is.
Yeah.
But what I love about David Thompson is that he is this great product of the British public school system where he writes about things in a poetic way. So but in a loving way, so that even if you completely disagree with what he's saying, you respect exactly where he's coming from.
That's very much how I felt about Ebert. I mean, I was, a massive Roger, more so because I think, I love
also a nerd.
Well, I love Siskel, but like Siskel also, the writing wasn't. Siskel was better on TV initially, right? I mean, that was the thing, was he had more charisma, but Ebert really was the scholar guy who would be like, no, let me tell you why I love this. And yes, also, as you point out, Brendan, was always the guy who was like, I get it. It's in this genre. He sort of he graded on the curve.
Guy.
I want more critics to do
sci-fi and horror and
because he would go look.
He was soft on hotties being.
Well,
he likes that too. He liked that.
I didn't see if he mentioned anything about. Did he? I wonder. I didn't see if he mentioned anything about Penelope Ann Miller, but I'm sure
it's probably there.
Yeah,
it's in the subtext, John.
Yeah.
He probably saw this right after he saw Carlita's wedding.
Yeah. He does specifically mention.
I was talking to my wife, and I go, "Yeah, it's from that time where Penelope Ann Miller was going to be a big thing."
She had a little bit.
She kind of was she was a big thing for. Because
she was the Gretchen Mol of that.
Okay. Yeah.
I would rather watch a Gretchen Mol though. Sorry.
Oh,
well,
disagree,
Gretchen Mol learned
sir.
a very powerful Penelope Ann Miller lesson,
which was.
You better go back to the theater. You better, keep improving your craft.
I mean, Penelope. I am looking.
Nobody knows who you are.
It's like 88 to
88 keys.
it's like 88 to 97 is her sweet spot. You know, where they were building movies around her. Because I would say
and then they realized after the gun in Betty Lou's handbag that maybe they shouldn't.
Because that's before Carlito's Way and this.
Oh really?
Yeah, that's 92. Because she was in.
Stop fighting.
Yeah, Carlito. Because the Relic, I think, was the last time I remember a Penelope Ann Miller vehicle.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope she's well. I
will say I'm very sad because she's in
plastic surgery.
Oh no, that's not what I'm talking about. She's in the Reagan movie that's coming out. Dennis Quaid. She's playing Nancy to Dennis Quaid's Ronald Reagan in the total ass-kissing thing about how Reagan stopped communism.
I've already pre-ordered the Blu-ray.
I watched that. Did you see that trailer? That trailer made me furious.
Someone get my will and an eraser.
She's still around though. She was on that Dahmer show that had all that buzz. she was on that. So I mean
she was.
Yeah,
I watched that and it didn't register.
She's Dahmer's mother in it.
Well, she doesn't have a very big part actually.
She's in 3 episodes though.
Yeah.
She's still around. I like Penelope Ann Miller. I always liked Penelope Ann Miller. So, and I like her in this movie. I think she and Baldwin are very fun together. I love that whole bit when she's talking about we have a connection. He's like, no, we don't. And she's just like, yeah, no, we don't. Although,
yeah, but again, they're playing a style.
Yeah. That
works in those sections. If the drafts had just been 2 or 3 more,
that's fine. I mean, that's fine. I think really, that's fine. You know, like I said, that I'm not. I get that. To me, like I said, this is just the tone of the movie's always had. But I do get that some of that could be smoothed out. It just feels like they're missing a gear. My favorite Baldwin, by the way, just on that same note, my favorite Baldwin line. I meant to say it earlier when we were talking about the mystical knife. When he's talking about what knife, and the guy stabs his. Oh, that knife. Best Baldwin delivery
is a shadow who quips. Anyway, moving on.
I do. Well, he quips as Lamont Cranston.
All I have to say to you is ventriloquism.
But so let's see. I think
there's a radio show episode where the shadow uses the ancient Oriental art of ventriloquism.
Yeah, there is an inherent silliness that is in there. You don't have, once again, yes, Brenda, you don't have to do it. But like to say that like this was always the most intense and serious thing. The pulps, certainly.
Well, I mean, again, it's certainly stylized and broad because it's pulp material. At the same time, the character is virtually humorless, and if humor circulates around a humorless character.
I think they do that when he's the Shadow, though. The Lamont Cranston has quips. The Shadow does not.
He really doesn't. He's jovial, like rich guy.
Well, I like this guy. All I know is I like this guy. If this guy's not consistent, I like this guy.
This is what you started with, and
I like this version of him.
So, guys, what do you think about like an old-fashioned sort of wheel series of episodes where like Columbo, McMillan and Wife, and McCloud, except it's the Shadow, Doc Savage,
Green Hornet,
the Avenger.
Don't do this. Don't even say these things.
Done.
That would be
say these things.
That'd be amazing. No one would back that. That'd be such a waste of money for someone.
I don't know. It feels like that there is, because having just I bring this up all the time. Having just watched Lupin again.
Well, I do think.
And then also Zorro. Thank you very much for recommending that show to me.
So very good.
Looking forward to the French language Counts of Monte Cristo.
Oh, that looks great too.
A TV show and a movie.
That looks great.
Those, two different productions.
Yep, but the movie in particular.
I feel like it's there's a potentiality.
I think yes. I think
the period kills it, as in too expensive.
Well,
to do anything in period is way too pricey.
Dude, after seeing Zorro, the Spanish language Zorro.
But you also realize that Spanish language Zorro is shot on literally one back lot set of the town, and one studio soundstage Hacienda de la Vega.
Yeah.
Really, it's nothing.
No, they actually. I thought you were going to say it's also
that,
shot in Spain, which is why it's
I wrote
gorgeous.
Shadow Pilot. So,
Well, no, but
the
I do think to Robin's, and we talked about this.
About this
on one of the previous episodes, though. That like I do think that
talked about this.
The streaming format is probably better for these characters because the audience, you don't have to get everybody like you do with a big blockbuster movie.
Right.
Going at a niche, like with streaming shows, they almost want like a small but devoted following. And I think that would be
Mr. Spade. Mr. Spade.
That's another one too. Yeah, that's a good
one. You're shot in 2 hours tops, pretty much, with a movie, and that's not enough time, especially if it's a odd setting or odd character or something like that that a lot of people aren't familiar with. You get your one chance, and if people don't immediately latch on to the Phantom or the Shadow or something like that, then that's it. But you do a series, and people, there's that breathing room where people go, it took me a couple episodes, but now I'm totally into this weird thing about a guy who can cloud men's minds. I'm like, boom.
Yeah, the Shadow would work well from, which is why I was thinking about watching it again for this podcast episode today. Was it would work better if you were seeing it from Harry Vincent's point of view, which I think is Brendan's thing, wasn't it?
I do make Harry Vincent the audience surrogate who has to be told everything, but we spend most of our
they do
time
that a little bit here, right? With the I mean, at least the initial bringing in of was it Tam?
Yeah, Dr. Roy Tam.
Yeah.
I mean, they do some of that, and then getting basically the lowdown. He gets
that gets
from
us
the Shadow and Mo, where it's like,
and that gets us into the network of agents.
Take this ring off ever, and da 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 da.
The sun is shining, but the ice is slippery.
You hated that too, Brennan? Was that another one that
I did?
You hated?
Why did you hate that? That's not even a joke per se.
The vanishing messages, the Beat Jonas reference,
and
Burbank with the tubes,
all that
stuff. It's like,
the pneumatic tube stuff is so good. Well, because Kep is not shitting on the material by any means. He's absorbing it.
It's not.
He's trying
to be funny and cute.
That's not overwhelming to me. It's so interesting. I don't think the movie is overwhelmingly funny. I think there are moments of it, and I think anytime it does, that upsets you, and that colors the whole movie to you.
Well,
is the sense I get.
Any of the weight it might have, and I think the Shadow weirdly should have a little weight.
Oh, I agree, but I don't. It doesn't kill it for me.
I don't think it does that. I think I think that it maintains dramatic stakes. The way through that, the amount
of murder certainly indicates that. I mean, Fischler. By the way, Fischler going off that building. The fact that he hits the lower part of it before, even as a kid, I just remember being like, "Oh Jesus Christ!"
But do you remember that there's a quip being delivered while that's happening?
Yeah,
that doesn't discount it. But I think this is an ongoing.
His performance at that is great, where he's like going, help me! I don't want to be up here.
It's so good.
I can't get down. That is terrifying.
And John Lone's the callousness of the way Shiwan Khan does that to him too. And I love the other sailors.
Someone saying like, "Well, things are coming down now."
See, that doesn't kill it for me. I feel like this is an ongoing thing. It's the Taika Waititi. It's the Taika Waititi Thor movies. It's the Marvels.
Hey, this is talking about the USA, pal.
See, this doesn't kill it for me. That I like that merging of tones.
John, I didn't. I kept.
That's fine
because I'm watching. I'm going. The Shadow is so aware of everything going on in human life. It actually means quite a bit to him, which is why when he murders, he's murdering horrible people.
Sure.
Yes.
And so, because he knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men.
He certainly does.
So the fact that he literally is not focusing on an innocent life, that to me rubs against everything that the character is, and that is the inconsistency in tone that would have benefited from a couple of more drafts.
Sure.
Whereas, like, we can lose this gag and move on to something else.
I'm not defending every gag, but I'm defending that there can be gags. Is I guess my and that.
No, I think jokes are fine. I think you can have
I will say again. I think you both read that first part of the pilot I wrote, right? Okay,
yes.
So my take was there. I put jokes in there. Mo is a funny older dude, but not comic-y. He's going to say some funny things. I made Roy Tam a younger guy, and so therefore he's also saying some things that are kind of funny. They're aware that the situation they're in is odd, and they will comment on it. But the mission and the main character, deadly serious. I
don't think it isn't in this. That's the thing that gets me.
You can cut this out. But in the second part,
I probably
when
won't.
he's as Lamont Cranston trying to call in a tip about a crime to the police, the hold music is Arthur's theme, and constant messages, pre-recorded messages going, the NYPD is hiring. Do you have what it takes to blah, blah, blah? And then cuts back to music while the Shadow is trying to get through to the police. See, I know that is comedy, but the Shadow himself, deadly serious.
See, that's
people get blown away.
Right.
People get blown away in this. He kills people.
We're all
which it makes more chilling when he laughs.
Yeah, we're all circling this as there was a lot of potential that was unrealized.
Yes.
Sure.
But I think because as a child, when you watch this, it is amazing to see. And much like things that I saw when I was a kid, I can go back and watch them and not be horribly disappointed or anything. Because I'm
there's also something
I'm also looking back to when they've initially impressed me. That's why Diamonds Are Forever is my favorite James Bond.
Oh,
movie.
Jesus Christ! Okay,
because I saw it on the ABC Sunday Night Movie.
Aside from
I was like 8 years old,
there's some. Now, see that I have a similar opinion of that, which is there's some good stuff in there, but that is an embarrassingly bad Bond movie.
To me, I could watch it forever.
Oh, of course, yeah.
He saw it when he was 8 years old.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing.
Also, talk about another dark but weirdly funny death is Larry Hankin driving his taxi cab into that gas station.
The great Larry Hankin. Brendan.
Another
great
TV comedy character actor.
Brendan, that is your. I'm telling you, that is your hang up, sir. These are all very good actors.
It does.
Who cares what they've done?
Correct. But when that's what your screen is filled with all the time, I would look. For instance, I'm just saying, like, what if? I'm not sure why this popped in my head. If you had done Apollo 13 and everyone in Mission Control were faces you'd seen on Seinfeld.
Some of them are.
And it was just all wacky character actors.
But they're not giving wacky performances necessarily. I love George Wendt.
All right, but John,
but your associations with them would just be like, oh, these are weightless character.
Oh, that's see that to me though is just discounting great actors.
To Brendan's point, Brendan sees that the Shadow could have been the Insider with Russell Crowe, but he feels like what it was the Informant with Matt Damon.
Both
that is
great movies. Yeah,
both are entertaining.
Both are great. Excellent movies.
Both based on true stories.
Yep.
Both follow similar beats.
Yeah.
I do.
One is staffed with the greatest comic actors at that time.
Yeah.
And one has Russell Crowe.
And the other one.
Our finest comic actor. Have you seen Pope's Exorcist? It's pretty funny.
He's very, very funny in The Nice Guys. But
he's very funny in The Nice Guys.
Yeah, that devil here. I get that devil.
I cannot wait. I will say, I honestly cannot wait for the sequel. I really did enjoy The Pope's Exorcist. It is so insane.
Guys, again, all my vitriol, and it's really just a frustration at what could have been, and that is very true of a fan. I love this character, and I know that when the movie fails, or doesn't do as well, we never get a sequel. We
Yeah.
don't get to improve. It
I
just
don't-
goes away and like, well,
Yeah,
that was his one shot. Hope you liked it.
Yeah, that is the case. But unfortunately, that's the case with all of these, whether they're good or bad.
I mean, we'll talk about it again with The Phantom, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
And actually think got pretty close to the source material, and yet people didn't want it.
I think that I'm not sure that had this gone more, who knows, but I'm not sure that the problem was had this skewed closer to the pulps, this would have suddenly been a hit. Who knows? Once again,
I'm not saying it would have made it.
No,
a hit,
because I'm just saying
it made it the proper representation.
Sure, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Though is I think there's a fundamental problem here, with the what studios are making versus what audiences seem to want at this point. Because I'm sure this baffled Universal and stuff like that are like, I don't know. Because I think to a studio executive, they're going, well, it's just the same thing as Batman. If they like the Batman movies, and then the next year Batman Forever comes out and is a huge hit, so I'm sure they're just going like, what are we missing? How is this not working? Because of course, once again, to the studios, they're just going,
is William Goldman right? Does no one really know anything in Hollywood? Oh,
I think that is the thing, though. It's just like they're just going like, oh yeah, well it's sort of, or I mean, I think also another thing I always think is mixed up in it too is it's a Batman and Indiana Jones combo that leads to these pulp movies, because they're like, people like period adventure, they also like this kind of dark hero, because their instinct from Batman isn't to then go, let's bring Superman back, let's do a Green Lantern movie. Their instinct is to go, oh, dark brooding noir Avengers.
Right,
that's what America wants.
They
kind of
The answer is just a copy, but you have to be specific to each individual character, or what is the point?
It's and even the casting of course, we didn't talk about this, but the casting of Alec Baldwin in this has long been read as like the guy who didn't get to be Batman. We'll have him be the Shadow.
Like, here, will this make you happy?
Yeah. And I do think
like, no, I want to go on stage and do Streetcar Named Desire. That's what I want to do.
Well, kind of. I mean, I think that this is also an interesting lesson in 90s Baldwin fascinates me, because between this and Hunt for Red October and some of his, I don't think the guy ever really wanted to be like a blockbuster movies. I just don't think that's who he was. People looked at him and he was, especially at this time, extremely handsome. And they went like leading man, but it's like actually kind of weird character actor.
Yep. Yeah, he
and
would
funny.
have rather been a character actor.
Yeah, and very funny.
And done funny character turns. And, you watch him in The Departed.
Oh, he's so fucking good in The Departed. He's so good in that movie.
Movies like that, where he comes in, he does his
he's great
five scenes.
Blue Jasmine, the Woody Allen movie with Cate Blanchett. He's wonderful in.
Well, no one present is going to say that this is an amazing actor.
And he's great, but I'm saying it's so interesting that like there was this attempt to make him like, can we build things around him? And like Hunt for Red October was a huge hit, but even still, it was like, well, it's Connery's movie, though. You know, I mean, it's sort of a thing where it's like him as a leading man. Weirdly, even though he's like incredibly famous and made some successful movies, that kind of was a ill fit for him. And not that he's not, I mean, as I just said, I love him in this movie. I don't think it was his fault, but it was like, when you talk, that just made me think of Rob, when you go like, he'd rather be doing Streetcar Named Desire. That is sort of a thing where it's like, I'll make The Shadow so I can finance this Mammoth production or something like that. Like, I think that's where his heart really lies. Not that he didn't enjoy this. And actually, like I said, on the Shout, and it's interesting that all of them were like, well, I came for Kep. Kep was as soon as I heard Kep was writing, I had to get involved. It's an interesting thing. And David Koepp, of course, will go on to write, the first Spider-Man movie. So I mean, like, look, this guy is not, because like I said, this definitely reads, and listening to him talk, whatever issues you may have, I don't think that's a lack of love for the source material from that guy.
No, that just wrong choices. No.
And actually,
and
interesting, goes on to write Mission Impossible after this too. I mean, look, the guy's doing just fine. He's like one of the most famous and respected screenwriters.
David
no. I was going to say the success of Jurassic Park and The Shadow gave us the trigger effect. And where would we be without that? I mean, we had to have one of those, right?
Good call. Mm-hmm.
What's so interesting that once again, like I said, he had done Carlito's Way before this. He does this, and once again, and Jurassic Park. And then he does like the next 3 De Palma movies once again. Like it's so interesting that this is. I wonder if they thought about De Palma.
Successful movies, they keep hiring you to do other movies.
It's just fascinating though that I'm like, I wonder if they asked De Palma to direct this at some point. I really would be curious. I don't know that would have been closer to what you want, Brendan, but it certainly would have been interesting.
Well, there would have been more nudity.
Visually exciting.
It would have been
even more visually exciting.
And it's already pretty visually exciting, but yeah, it would have been.
Yeah, to make things look great.
Anyway,
I think he wrote Snake Eyes too.
He sure did.
One of my favorite De Palma
I'm so glad you said that.
Nicolas Cage movie.
Cage is wonderful. I love Snake Eyes. Not enough people talk about Snake Eyes. I like that movie a lot.
It's a great who's done it.
Is that the one before he joins G.I. Joe?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that was Snake Eyes Origins. Little known fact, De Palma, big G.I. Joe guy. Huge big G.I. Joe guy. Yeah. No, I also agree. Snake Eyes is underappreciated, so I'm glad you mentioned that. My last point is another thing. I have a third prom, and it's a small one, but that song at the end is abysmal.
Oh, I turned it off before that. Yeah, I just turned it off.
I don't mind the one. I don't mind the one in the club so much.
The one in the club. The best thing about the one in the club, though, is it's such a terrible song, but it's made listenable and it makes sense.
Well, they're trying to do a period song.
They got the great Johnny Mandel to do the arrangement on it, and Johnny Mandel
actually
did the arranging for Sinatra's "Ring-a-Ding-Ding,"
and it has that vibe to it. Yeah, it does have that sound, and it fits. It actually
the score for Harper. He did the score for Harper.
One of my very favorite movies.
He's a terrific jazz guy, and he does a really nice arrangement on that song. But Jim Steinman's song in those end credits,
Jesus Christ,
like
original
really shitty.
Well,
Meatloaf.
The thing about it, though,
Steinman famously worked with Meatloaf.
Yeah, did he? No.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying.
No, but that's the thing about it, and they got Taylor Dane to do the thing.
So good, Taylor Dane. Are you kidding me?
But the thing about it is, I will say, it's terrible. But there's an inkling of nostalgia to it to me, not for the song itself, but for every single movie I saw in the 90s had a song that sounded kind of like this. And the thing, it reminds me of the same people. It's the song at the end of Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. Even the fucking animated Batman movie has like a swooning love song at the end that sounds like this. The lyrics of this song are hilarious because they try
horrible,
but they try so hard. Where it's like, it's a city of shadows, a city of sin. And you're like, I get you're like, it's kind of shadow.
He knows what evil lies within.
It's
oh, that's good.
It's very it is that thing. It's terrible. But I do frequently listen
to. That's a recommend.
I do frequently listen to the score to this movie because it is
score's great.
I love that theme.
It's
Goldsmith knocked it out of the park.
Well, Goldsmith. I mean, once again, hot take. Goldsmith, one of the best. One of the best to ever do it. One of the best to ever do it.
The score to the Frankenheimer movie Seconds, which I'll recommend until I die.
I think Seconds. I think Seconds has come up on every episode of this show. Maybe.
Seconds is so fucking good.
I agree. You're not getting any pushback from me. I'm a huge Frankenheimer guy.
You like the Twilight Zone? You should see Seconds.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Yeah, it's really good.
Speaking of the Twilight Zone,
Rock Hudson Sweaty.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's a sweaty
John
picture.
Randolph is an old Rock Hudson Sweaty.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's talk about.
Brendan, you mentioned when you mentioned the creation of the Shadow, you kind of glossed over. This is one of my favorite things about this. How this character was created.
Yeah.
Is that they basically took the host of a Twilight Zone type radio show.
Yeah.
And turned him into a mysterious crime fighting figure. I wonder if Rod Serling ever kind of thought, I could have done that.
Why aren't I fighting crime?
Why aren't I fighting crime? As the man with the cigarette.
I would love the idea if it's like season 4 of the Twilight Zone.
I blow smoke at them until they die of black.
I would love if they did if like season 4 of the Twilight Zone. Certainly, it's like. Maybe I could get a backstory or something. By the way, do you know there's a
tricks in the Orient?
Are you aware there's
Yes, I use the ancient Oriental trick of phrasing.
There's a Shadow. I do want to recommend because Brendan, you've read a lot of the.
You out with my eyebrow.
You've read a fair amount, I'm sure, of the Dynamite Shadow comics, which are all really good. And that I do recommend. We mentioned Shadow Year One, but like pretty much, I love the Garth Ennis one too.
Well, I mean, the thing that I liked
David
about
Avalon, Johnny, are you going to mention the David Avalon Shadow meets Twilight Zone thing?
I was going to mention that, yes.
Yeah.
Which is one of the weirdest things.
One of my friends on Facebook, David Avalon.
Nice.
I worked with him at the porn site.
That's right. Yeah, he did the Twilight, the Shadow in the Twilight Zone or whatever it was called.
Yeah. The thing I like about what Dynamite did with the license, as I've said before, is that they basically let every creative team come in and pick up where they want. It's like, no, they don't have to be connected. You want to put the Shadow over there, fine.
Yeah.
There's a terrible one called The Shadow now. Sorry, everybody.
It's a modern day setting
one. How not to do. Read that. But there were some.
It's no Howard Chaykin.
Howard Chaykin's view, slightly problematic these days. But I still got to tip my hat to the chutzpah of a Howard.
Dude, I will say that is one of the weirder Comic-Con experiences I've had is talking to that guy. So he's a character.
Challenged John to a wrestling match.
No, I think I've told this on other podcasts, but when I met him, I said, "Hey, huge fan of your work." He goes, "That means a lot. That means a lot to me. Of course, for all I know, your taste is shit." But
Actually, I actually like that.
No, it's what I said to and sorry to keep what I said to and I'm sorry to keep name dropping, but what I said to Matt Fraction that I
Who?
Yeah. No, but I did. I said, I just met Chaykin because he had done Satellite Sam with them, and he goes, "How was it?" And I said to him, "As advertised." Yeah. Chaykin was exactly what, and part of me thinks that he knows that, right? Like, I mean, it's sort of like surly New York guy. And so it was just.
I never talked to the guy ever, but the first time I saw him was at a Houston comic convention in the '80s.
Yeah,
and he's probably doing American Flag at that.
That would
time.
make sense.
And he came in the lobby. I don't think I knew him by sight. I think maybe I saw his.
He just looks like a guy. I will say he doesn't stand out, like.
Well, no, he did to me because at least back then he looked like one of his characters.
Actually, that is.
His hair was feathered. He had a busty blonde as his.
That helps. That definitely helps.
Fancy portfolio,
identify him.
And he's sitting there like just in the lobby, like going, "Find out if they have cocktails." I was like, "Geez, man!" It was like rock star. Comic artist.
And I met him, decades later, and he still had that vibe.
and again, his work is his own.
He's kind of the Robert Culp of comic book creators.
Yes, very much the Robert Culp. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point he goes, Howard Chaykin wants no olives. I bet he talks about himself in the
not for
Chaykin.
The Shadow Twilight Zone thing. The one I will recommend people check out though, because we've been talking about the differences between them, is the Shadow Batman crossover. Did you read that, Brendan? The Murder Geniuses.
They were both good.
Yeah, I just reread the Murder Geniuses, which is the Scott Snyder, Steve Orlando one, and I thought
of course their first crossover from the 1970s when DC had the comics license, and he appeared in Detective Comics.
What I was going to say though is I think that comic, the Murder Geniuses in particular, does a great job of explain why the Shadow isn't Batman, or why Batman isn't the Shadow, or vice versa.
Yes.
Because I also love that that's decades. It is kind of modern day Shadow, and it's like he's not even pretending to be Lamont Cranston anymore. In that he is full on just consumed by this thing. And even Batman is like, you are fucking insane. This guy is a I don't know that I'm actually, even though we're both fighting crime, I'm not sure I'm with this guy, and it's great. Anyway.
You just need to cut back to Jim Aparo drawing the two of them shaking hands and Batman saying, "It is an honor." I don't think,
but I like that.
Based on you,
that makes no sense to me.
Now, the one that, to be even more of a nerd, that Brendan is referring to, is actually it's not Detective Comics, it's Batman, and not Batman Brave and the Bold, it's Batman, and the artist in the interior artist was
Irv
Novick, and the cover artist was not Aparo, it was Neil Adams.
Right, but they also met a second time, and then they did the Shadow series, issue number 1. I still have.
I have a good amount of Shadow.
Denny O'Neil and was
Mike
that Mike
Kaluta.
Kaluta then? Yeah. Great.
I have a good amount of the Shadow is always one that I don't collect a lot of single issue comics, but I will dig through back issue bins and stuff looking for shit because a lot of that stuff hasn't been reprinted, like a lot of the DC stuff.
I know,
and that's a shame.
Dynamite got permission somehow.
They did a couple.
Got the license
They did the Chaykin.
They did the Chaykin.
And they did some of the Kyle Baker stuff.
Master series, the Shadow Masters.
Yep.
And they did the first run of the recurring series that followed Chaykin.
That's the Phil Hester, Kyle Baker stuff, right?
They weren't to Kyle Baker yet. No. It was still Sinkovich.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Sinkovich, yeah.
Well, they did some of
I forgot that.
They did do some. I know because I have a couple of the Kyle Baker ones they did too. So they've sporadically, but they haven't.
Kyle Baker, it was this insane comic.
It just kept getting crazier and crazier.
Crazy. When his head is decapitated head. Oh my God.
The Shadow's head is on an android body.
It's
what
crazy.
Are you doing?
Yeah.
It is insane. It's like on when
Andrew
Wally
Helfer,
Wood
that was
thought it'd be a great idea to send the spirit to the moon or something. It's just like this nuts stuff.
All right, I swear this is the actual last recommendation, but have you read the Cullen Bunn Shadow Meets Houdini comic?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, because we talked about, of course, that the guy was the Houdini biographer, and literally Cullen Bunn did a comic. It's called The Shadow: The Last Illusion, and it is the Shadow having to enlist Harry Houdini to help him, and it's very fun.
I'm very sorry for everyone who's continued to listen to this podcast.
I know.
Brendan and I just had a stroke hearing about.
Well, because this is one of the ones you can tell when it's like, this is a character we really like. A lot of the other characters we have respect for or whatever, but like we're all big Shadow. I enjoy
one shot
some Dick
Hitler's
Tracy.
Astrologer is very good because Kaluta came back to do that
with Denny O'Neil from Denny O'Neil.
Yeah. And I will say, actually, I just looked that up. That Dynamite did republish that in a nice, oversized hardcover edition.
That's cool. I mean, Dark Horse, when they got like the Star Wars license, every now and then they'll work out deals. The idea that Dark Horse was able to reprint Marvel's Star Wars,
right.
And Marvel's like, fine, just give us a cut of the.
And it worked out for Marvel in the reverse because they're now reprinting all of Dark Horse's stuff. So.
Yeah, there we go.
Anywho, let's talk about some
one last rabbit horrible thing.
Yeah,
my series.
Yeah,
is John just reminded me of my favorite Batman Elseworlds story, which is Batman and Harry Houdini are friends.
Yes. Oh yeah.
With John Francis Moore and Howard Chaykin, our old friend, co-writing that.
Yeah.
God,
beautiful painted art.
God damn, what a great book.
Yeah.
Anyway,
very fun. They're doing a new collection of those Elseworlds, by the way, both Batman and Superman Elseworlds. They're putting all of them together, which I'm definitely going to pick up. So, because I need
reading Castle of the Bat.
I'll tell you what I really like is
Frankenstein's monster Batman.
You know what though? That's what I love about the Elseworld stuff. It's like there's no limit. You can do anything.
Did they say no to anybody?
I don't think they did. I really don't. No, there's no way they did.
Citizen Wayne. Everybody reads Citizen Wayne.
Yeah.
It's Batman, only he literally plays baseball.
Yeah.
No, stick with me. Stay with me.
He's a bat.
Let's all right, fellas. All right, gentlemen.
He's a bat.
Yeah.
You know who's
Guys.
the Joker in that? Dizzy Dean.
All right, gentlemen. I've lost control of the show, is very clear. Let's finish up with the highs and lows as we always do.
All right.
And I don't think you guys will agree with either one of these because I don't think you have a 1 or 10 star opinion of this movie. So I'm not sure you're going to get on board with this 1-star review from Lodger3. Titles their review, "Who knows what incompetence lurks in the hearts of this film."
Jesus Christ. Wow.
This has got to be. Yeah. I know. I'm just like, oh man, where were you writing blurbs in the '90s when critics loved shit like that? That's a Gene Shalit review.
That's a blurbometer right there.
You'll die hard from laughter. All right. This has got to be one of the worst adaptations of any character in the history of
Oscar.
So, yes, once again, this has got to be one of the worst adaptations of any character in the history of film. For everyone who says, just enjoy it or don't analyze it, just proves that this film doesn't have much going for it. Although the screenplay attempts to pull as many details from the Shadow's history as possible, any attempt to tell a good story was made as transparent as the Shadow himself.
What?
I am disappointed that with such a great supporting cast, they were given nothing to do. All caps. Curry goes from a sniveling coward to a sweaty maniac with no transition or explanation. And poor Ian McKellen, award-winning actor, is simply wasted. The Shadow himself is poorly written, making wisecracks, something that he never does and is out of character, to the other Mr. Brendan's point. I almost said Mr. Johnson's point.
This?
Yeah. Many good moments are ruined by the intrusion. Many good moments are ruined by the intrusion of some silly one-liner that deflates what little tension was building. The Shadow even makes Uncle Wainwright forget about the Shadow, all the while driving around in a futuristic cab with sci-fi gadgets in it. Not exactly subtle. Don't forget the Shadow in this film doesn't even save the city. He just stops the bad guy in a climax stolen from Highlander. Is it stolen from Highlander? Also, it's the same director, so he stole from himself. Anyway, Margot and her father.
It's a climax that was stolen from the lady from Shanghai.
Well, much like 800 other movies that steal the end of the lady from Shanghai. Because it's just mirrors. Yeah. Although I do really like that whole sequence, and I like the way he
I do too.
Takes out Juan Khan by putting the piece of mirror through his brain where his psychic powers are stored. Great.
I think that he has a less delicate touch than Doc Savage, who at least has the crime college. And
well, yeah, I mean, actually, that once again, they're the
crime college. It's a community college, really.
Yeah, I don't know, man. You can get your associates there.
Anyway, Doc Savage's crime college.
Margot and her father are really the ones who saved thousands or millions of lives. That's fine. I'm okay with that. He stopped the bad guy. They destroyed the weapon. That's fine. Supposedly, 2 different scripts were written, a dark, serious one and a funny camp one. He's not entirely accurate about that. There were just many scripts before Kep came on board. Shame the second one was picked because we might have gotten a good film instead. 1 out of 10 stars.
Jesus. I actually agree with a lot of what they say, only I would not give it 1 star.
That's the thing, right? Is you go
I enjoyed parts of this movie.
And like why can't you just go this didn't work? Yeah, but it's just like he's going it's very interesting. He does have the same points as you. He just goes, and the movie is unrepentant shit because of it. And you're like, that's
I don't agree with that either.
That character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except, I mean, we're talking about like John said, there was a gajillion screenplays. Some were funnier, some were darker. Yeah. I remember when David and Leslie Newman were talking about the screenplay adaptation they wrote. And this was right after Superman the movie, and that was going to be this dark romantic.
Yeah, because everybody that's what Kep talked about. Is he came in and he read the other drafts that had been written of stuff, and he's like, they were all over. Everybody had a wildly different tonal. It's kind of like Batman too, right? I mean, when Burton made Batman, at one point Ivan Reitman was going to do a comedy version. I mean, like. Everybody is sort of
Jack Black as Green Lantern.
That's what I mean. It's
you just have to,
all these ideas are thrown out. It doesn't mean that it was this or that. It's just like people go like, what about this? No, whatever. Anyway, how about we go to a counterpoint, which comes to us from Snatchy, IMDb user Snatchy, who calls this title of the review a misunderstood gem. This movie got poor to middling reviews when it was released in 1994, but I still hold out hope that it eventually gets its proper respect in TV and cable reruns. This was written in 2000.
Write this?
Yeah, this was written in 2000. So
it was written in 1994.
Because it's a terrifically entertaining film. Maybe it just takes a certain frame of mind or background to enjoy this movie, but I absolutely love it and frequently go back to it when I want to see how a dark, edgy, and fun movie is done right. Alec Baldwin.
John, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
A certain frame of mind and background. Does that mean someone who really hates the Chinese?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Alec Baldwin is.
What the fuck is he talking about?
I don't. Yeah, Alec Baldwin is. I don't know. Here's the thing. I always start with whether I agree with the points in these. The idea of writing long IMDb reviews makes no sense to me, but whatever.
No.
We get to do it as entertainment here. Alec Baldwin is excellent as Lamont Cranston / The Shadow. Baldwin has never achieved the commercial success many predicted for him. Once again, this is 2000.
Whoa.
So this is really before and this movie perhaps shows why. Baldwin doesn't play a straight protagonist. The movie I think he is straight. He seemed pretty into Margot Lane. All right. The movie begins with Cranston as a hedonistic warlord in China, and then jumps to his reformed shadow persona in the 1930s New York, and it is Baldwin's performance, which teeters between serious and funny, nice and cruel, that bridges the gap. Russell Mulcahy and crew did an excellent job creating a 1930s noir feel to the picture. One of my friends complained that the movie sets were too obviously fake. I think he missed the point. They recreated the feel of a 1930s movie set, not the 30s itself. Oh, hang on, skip. The movie is a bit campy at times, but thankfully maintains the dark edge of the Shadow character, who has no qualms about killing or maiming his opponents. Hey, this guy was a bloodthirsty killer in his previous life. You think he's going to forget how to use that power when he changes sides? That was in parentheses. John Lone does a nice job as the Shadow's opposite number, Shawan Khan. The supporting cast is excellent as well, with perhaps the exception of Penelope Ann Miller, whose character and performance were rather annoying, but I can live with it. Overall, I give this movie a big thumbs up and recommend it to anyone that enjoys fun movies. I've gotten a mixed reaction from friends I've recommended it to, but I think this is the kind of movie where if you like it at all, you'll love it. 10 out of 10 stars.
They won't return my calls.
So there you go. Point counterpoint of the highs and lows segment of the IP Squad.
What we're saying with these two reviews is that my brother has two alternate personalities that come out at night when he goes to sleep. And they write IMDb reviews.
I guess so. And one of them is called Snatchy. One of them goes by Snatchy.
You've discovered my terrible secret.
By night, I am Snatchy.
I begged you to get therapy, Brendan. I begged you.
Have another 5-star review to write.
Let's
write another 5-star review.
We are going to jump forward.
Meet the Stupids has been really misunderstood. Tom Arnold's performance in it alone is.
Oh God! Don't bring up the Stupids. It's a John Landis picture, which breaks my heart.
Wait! Didn't you want to talk about Amazon Women on the Moon? Snatchy?
Actually, I like Amazon Women.
I like parts of Amazon Women on the Moon.
Come on.
Parts
Son
of it.
The Invisible Man.
That part is great. Ed Begley Jr. is the reason to watch that movie.
Have you ever seen his shirt make a phone call before?
It's very funny. So anyway, okay. So next week though, we're gonna jump 2 years from 1994 to 1996 and meet once again this weird little kind of Batman response trilogy. And I'm going to give you, as always, the tagline for this movie, which it has two taglines. One is better than the other. The ghost who walks, the man who cannot die. So that's the first tagline, and then the one I remember.
That's 2 words.
Yeah, the other one you remember, I'm sure. Slam evil.
Slam evil.
Yeah,
Hey, Brendan. Yeah. I don't know if you noticed, but this
gotta go.
Punched me really hard in the face with his ring.
Yeah.
Boy. And I've seen like surgeons and stuff. It won't come off.
Here's the thing that I absolutely love.
Brendan, say it.
And I'll say this even before we talk about him next week. I love the fact that he punches you with one ring to mark you as his enemy.
Yeah.
If you're his friend, you're still getting clocked because he's going to punch you with a different ring to mark you as his friend.
That's his friend.
I don't just go to like going, hey, Kit, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
I know you're friend.
Hey,
it's okay.
Can we just be nodding the
It's been a little while since I watched it, but I don't think he does the friend.
That means I hit you with
I don't think he punches friends in the movie, if I remember correctly. I think they get rid of that.
He does it in the movie, but
yeah.
I just love the fact he's got another brand.
Yeah, hold on, wait a minute. Let me get my friend ring.
Can I just be your acquaintance?
Yeah. No. Anyway, Brendan, you and I have both talked about.
If you're his acquaintance, you get hit with both rings.
Yeah. Brendan and I, we have talked about liking this movie for quite a while on other podcasts. We are, and I finally get to talk about Zane. So that's all that really matters.
Hey,
finally get
John,
to talk about
maybe
Zane.
You should talk to your friend Billy Zane about this.
We're actually the next podcast we're doing is Zane Zone.
Yeah.
And,
Zane's Zone.
Now, I mentioned this, and Brandon, as you know this, I do have
but this is the spin-off episode of our new podcast, Hankering for Hankin.
Brandon, as I said this about this week's episode last week, I do have a signed poster of The Shadow signed by Alec Baldwin, and as you know, I also have a signed Phantom signed by Billy Zane. So,
Hey, John, next week, can we start the episode by just saying, for those who tuned in late, what's that opening?
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
For those who came in late?
We'll get to that, but I fucking love that in that movie. That is great.
I don't mean to brag, but I have a signed Superman by Kirk Allen.
Well, okay, then you beat us all. The original Superman.
Hey, guys, I don't like to compete. You know me, I'm not about competition.
Never. Yeah.
Ever. But my 4K complete set of The Prisoner has the scrawl and a Sharpie. It says, "Fuck off, Patrick McGowan."
There you go. Patrick McGowan.
Actually, that's just something Robin wrote because there's no comma in there. It's Robin telling Patrick.
It's very interesting. That's actually that's a great tease because Patrick McGowan is in The Phantom, of course.
He is.
I know.
Yeah, so there we
I
go.
can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah,
That's next
that will
week.
be
Let's
next
do
week,
it
of course, as mentioned before. If you want more from us, including talking about other movies inspired by pulp characters.
We'll come to your house.
Yeah, we're taking this on the road, but we're only playing people's living rooms. We're not doing theaters or anything. We're just coming to people's living rooms, whether they want it or not. Yeah, they will be tied down, unfortunately, too. They'd be forced to listen to us talk about it. Here's the thing about the Rocketeer. No. You can head over to our Patreon page, which is patron.podbean.com/punchup. Once again, that's patron.podbean.com/punchup for cool exclusive bonus content. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of the IP Squad. Until next week, the case file is closed.